all right, of today's sequence. We'll first touch on the total landed market overview first. Okay, overview. This will take about half an hour. I'll explain to you what happened on the overview and what are some of the highlights for the entire market for total Singapore. After which we will go by the various regions and districts to have a very in-depth look, okay, in terms of the type of properties, the different sub-segments, etc. And then this will last for about 15 minutes per region, all right, where my ICs will take over, and then we'll come back to the conclusion. We hope to end this within 2 hours, but leaving about 20 minutes for discussion, all right, and Q&A. Meanwhile, if there's any questions, feel free to just type inside, I think, the chat. So my panelists or my leaders here will try to attempt to answer as many of the questions as possible, all right? If you have a chance later, we can add some of these interesting questions out and share, I think, some of our insights as well, okay? All right. So what happened in the last quarter? Okay, if you have been reading the papers just slightly more than a week ago, this is the first report that just came out, URA flash results. And I won't go through the whole thing, but there was a mention that prices of landed homes fell by 4.9%. Okay, fell by 4.9%. Now, this caught us at a surprise because obviously we're in the market. We probably had one of our best quarters so far in terms of showing. We did not see the prices going up, all right? We didn't see the price go up. And then when you start to understand the terminology on how basically Straits Times, Business Times, or URA derive their price results, okay, you will start to understand. So this is what I meant, okay? In our own analysis, in terms of transaction volume, all right, we actually showed a growth. A new growth is a rebound from quarter 2 by 6.6% to $1,924. Okay, I'll come to this in a while. So, but why is there a discrepancy? I think it's the first thing that it has been mentioned before, but I thought I'll take this chance to explain to everyone how do you read both index, okay? Because it has been confusing, I think, to a lot of so-called landed stakeholders out there. So this is derived from URA, okay? So as you can see here, this is the price index is at 231.2, and then now it's at 219.9. So that's how they get the change of minus 4.9%. But one thing to take note is that this URA price index is different from the way we derive our average value. Okay, to give you a better understanding in terms of the different URA price indicators. Now, the similarity is that all numbers are actually derived, the data points are derived from SLA transactions, all right? SLA caveated transactions. The main difference between the PPI, okay, there's the PPI from URA and the average PSF, there are a few, okay? After this, you will better understand what is more useful or more relevant. So PPI is actually a relative index, okay? They use from 2009 quarter 1 as 100, right? It's an index. So anything that goes up, assuming it is, for example, $1 million, it becomes 1.5, the index becomes 150, for instance, okay? Whereas the average PSF that HLD have been using all along is actually using average PSF, okay? What we do is we use the average of all transactions. Average of all transactions. Next, the PPI actually uses median price, okay? Median price. So if there are, for example, let's say 101 transactions, they'll take the median transaction number 51, okay, to derive that, right? To which then you can start to really realize if you are owner, buyer, or seller out there, do you need to know the total number of transactions in your district before you know what's the median? And how does your house reflect, okay, stand with regards to the median price? How far are you from there? All right. Average PSF is a bit more straightforward. We all know averages, right? Averages. So this uses the average price and is expressed based on PSF. Okay, expressed based on PSF. So median price, it could be, for example, if the 100 transactions that I mentioned, and then the 51 transaction happens to be, let's say, 4.3 million. That could be a median, but it does not take into consideration what is your lowest and what's your highest. They just take at that point. Okay. I hope at these 2 points, you really start to realize that why we prefer to use average PSF. Now, a third difference is that the PPI includes strata landed, okay? Includes strata landed, and which we feel it distorts basically the average PSF, okay? Because, you know, strata landed uses build-up area, whereas for landed properties, it's always expressed and also recorded in URA based on land size, right? Based on land size, to which we therefore feel that using including strata landed will actually cause a lot of distortion, especially for districts that do not have or they have a lot of strata landed properties, right? Last but not least, which it comes to today's and all our webinars purpose, is that it cannot be dissected further. All right, if I give you a median PPI of 219, for example, and there's one number and that's it. There's no way you can dissect it further to understand by districts or by house types or what do you call this? The changes right across, for example. So it is simple, it's very simplistic to show the movement, but we feel that for further analysis, I think it's important for us to be able to dissect the numbers further, right, to delve deeper. So the conclusion, okay, is that imagine you're an owner, and then I give you a PPI, for example. Yes, there is a movement. You know that the price have moved, so to speak, based on the median price. That includes strata landed. But how do you as a seller now, when you put your property up for sale, all right, when we discuss, there's a quantum, there's always a PSF that we're always talking about. So we feel that this is easier to understand, okay, and also to understand more deeply as well. Okay, for this reason, we decided, or we have always been using average PSF as an index from URA to explain and to analyze, I think, the landed market results. Okay, if there's any questions at this point, please feel free to ask. Okay, good. Okay, so let's now come back, all right, to our plus 6.6% now. Plus 6.6 or 1924 is significant because it was a rebound from the previous quarter. It's also significant because it's the highest price ever reached, okay, crossing 1,009 for the first time. If you see at quarter two, that was at 1805. At quarter one, we almost reached 1,009, but this quarter is the first time we have surpassed 1924 per square feet, island-wide, okay? Right, so if you look at volume, okay, which is also very important and something that we are sensitive about as we're doing transactions on the ground, is that volume has also recovered, all right, from a slight dip in quarter two. Okay, from quarter one to quarter two, it was almost at 300, and then at quarter three this time around, it rebounded back to 345 units. Okay, 345 units. It is while it is a positive growth 15%. Let's also forget that this is also one of the weakest quarter three, right? In the past 4 years since the pandemic. So versus last year was actually a drop from minus 23. So you could see actually from the charts on the right side, right? Since the peak of quarter three, 2021, it has been actually on a downward decline, right? So now hovering at 300 plus per quarter. We're expecting to end the year probably about 1,002 units, all right? On average, for the last 10 years, we are going about 1,004 to 1,005 units. And in the peak, we can even reach 2,000 units, okay? So this is not unusual because we are seeing island-wide across all residential segments from HDB to condos, whether they are new launches or resale, suffering a dip as well, okay? Okay, next thing, let's take a look. If you were to put the value and volume together, you start to see this very interesting trend that we have been analyzing and trying to explain, where the drop in volume has not deterred the rise in prices at all consistently for the last 7 to 8 quarters, right? 7 to 8 quarters. So is this going to be a trend that's going to continue, whereby I think the prices are a lot more resilient, even though there's a drop in transaction volume? I think we will discuss this in the various districts, right, later. Okay, so what is we're going to do for the rest of the webinar is to understand what happened in these last 2 quarters, all right? What happened in quarter 2 and 3 that actually resulted in this rebound, okay? After a almost, I would say alarming, almost quite a surprising drop in quarter 2. So the first part, let's take a look, all right? We have the numbers plus 6.6 and plus 15%. First way for us to understand further, especially if you're a seller, buyer of a terrace, semi or detached, is to understand how are the results different across the 3 house types, okay? So let's first talk about by value. Remember 6.6% was the total market value increase, but you can see that terrace and semi are the 2 house types that's driving the value. In fact, we have now terrace crossing island-wide, $2,000 per square feet for the first time. All right, for the first time. Okay, growth at about 6.7%. We however see even much bigger growth of almost 12% from semi-D, all right, almost 1,009 per square feet. And then detached after quite very strong growth in quarter 1 and quarter 2, it has actually declined by about 10%, all right, by about 10%, 9.5. Next is volume. Again, to remind again, it's 15% increase, and this is again driven by semi-Ds and terraces, which grew by 20% and 25% respectively. Right, so detached is going downhill also in terms of volume at minus 25%. Right, later we'll go into details. There are many reasons for this. The under detached also includes, for example, GCBs. We also see a slower take-up rate of some of the bigger houses as well. All right. So first conclusion, the first highlight, all right, of quarter 3 is that detached houses, whether is it in value or volume, actually perform the worst. Okay, perform the worst with respect to semi-D or terrace. Are there any detached buyers or sellers out there as we speak now? Okay, this is always very interesting. Every webinar, we have different stakeholders with interest in different segments or different districts later, as we will see. All right, so don't be alarmed. I think we're just sharing what has happened. What's important is the why. Okay, later we'll go into the why and how it would actually impact the next quarter or next year. Now, next is freehold and freehold / triple nine. We lump them together and versus 99-year. Now, 99-year properties have grown in prominence since the beginning of this year as affordability becomes more and more of a concern, all right, for a lot of upgraders from condos or HDB. So you start to see, and especially if I can remember properly, last quarter we showed that there was actually a very strong growth for 99-year properties in terms of both volume and value. All right, you can see the green mark here. And then this is the second quarter, it has shown very resilient growth, right? Volume though is plus 2% only, but value continues to grow up, closing to 1,005 per square feet already. Okay, if you are sensitive to whether it's freehold or 99-year condos, I think the similar concerns will arise whether tenure matters a lot in landed properties. Okay. Right, so versus freehold 9 and triple nine, which accounts for more than 80%, all right, about 85% last we checked, okay, accounts for obviously the trend is a reflective of the total market. So you have the volume increased by 18% and value by 6.5%, very, very close to the national average. Okay, so compared to the both, this time round, the freehold and triple 9-year houses are performing better, all right, than the 99 years. Another sub-segment that we should look at is strata landed. Okay, strata landed, even though we did not put the numbers into the main figures, right, but we managed to extract this out, and because we also see more and more buyers looking for strata landed due to affordability as well. All right, so unfortunately, it does not suffer the same fate or doesn't enjoy the same fate as 99-year properties. Okay, you see actually a drop in both volume and value, all right, in this quarter. Okay, so strata landed houses are performing worse in landed in general. Now, next will be new houses. Okay, new houses. Now, new landed properties or new landed houses versus as compared to condos. Condos, I think new launches are always highly anticipated and monitored. Unfortunately, for landed wise, because they represent a very, very small percentage. All right, I'm talking about less than 10%. In fact, a few percentage points. They are often neglected. But if you are looking for new landed properties now, I think the following charts will interest you. Okay, so resale houses, just like triple nine and freehold, they form the bulk, all right, of all transactions. And you can see out of the 345, 321 are actually occupied by resale ones. And resale, as you can see, has grown. It's very close to numbers, 13 versus 15% and 6.5% versus 6.6%, right? Now, let's take a look at new launches, new landed houses, okay? New landed houses, okay, has bucked the trend also in quarter 2 and increased by 38%, okay? Has increased by 38%. A lot of this is due to one launch that in District 28, which I'll leave Sean to explain to you. every time you see a spike, frankly, you can see even Q2, Q3 as well, it reaches more than 10 or 20 units, usually is due to a particular landed launch. Although there are not a lot of landed developments out there because a lot of landed properties are sold either in one or maybe in pairs of max 4 units. But sometimes when a big development comes up, this will cause a spike, like what we are seeing now. Okay. What is interesting though is that this launch is actually a 99-year a property. It's called Poland Collection. All right. Later we'll show you the impact of that. But that has not basically changed the direction. In fact, the value has actually still gone up by 6.9%. Okay. Imagine this is a freehold launch. I think the increase or the spike will be even higher. Okay, so new houses are doing better in volume, right? In terms of volume, because volume for resale was 12%, and then this is at 38%. Okay. So to summarize, we're going to put everything together. If you're in front of the computer or phone, you want to screenshot anything, I think this is the first important slide that you should screenshot, right? It basically summarizes everything that you see. So one look from here without dwelling into the numbers, unlike previous quarters where there's a lot more red and blue. I hope by now you can see that red represents a drop and the blue represents a rise. There are basically almost, right? Most of the indicator or segments have actually shown an improvement, with the exceptions, okay, notable exceptions of detached that we mentioned earlier, which has a drop in both value and volume, all right, and strata landed. Otherwise, all the other segments have actually contributed to the increase that we saw, okay? Right, of particular interest will be semi-detached, right? Semi-Ds that has actually grown faster, a double-digit growth in both value as well as volume as well. Although terrace is closing up, but I think semi-Ds later we see by various districts, a lot of districts have actually performed a lot better. Okay, so first summary, okay, was the 6% growth in value, 15% in volume. Best performings are semi-Ds at 11.6. Volume will be new houses and semi-Ds. All right. And then another summary for you to remember is that the worst performing in terms of values detached, strata landed, right, by minus 9.5, minus 4.8. And volume wise, the segment that dropped the most is strata landed and detached. All right. Quite straightforward. Okay. Next now, let's move on to geographical regions and districts. This is where I think the analysis got a lot more interesting, right? Because we are able to, based on the differences in the locations and different parts of the island, able to segment certain patterns, okay, or trends in the last 3 months. So first thing that we'd like to introduce to you, if they're new to our webinar, is that we actually segment or separate basically the analysis into 2 types. One is core regions, the rest is non-core regions, all right? The core regions, which we define by HLD here, is basically Northeast, East, Central, and West, right? Represented, like it covers actually 11 districts. These 11 districts are chosen because they represent more than, as of this quarter, is about 85%. In fact, more than 85% of all transactions, all right? Because there's enough volume for us to analyze, and of course, based on market demand, they also are the most consistent as well, right? Okay, so before we continue, maybe you can share with us which landed district are you most interested in? Okay, are you most interested in? Let's launch the, just hold on. Okay, there you go. We have group 10 and 11 together because we only have 10 choices and 13 and 14 together. Whether you're a buyer, seller, you're an agent, maybe you have a buyer or seller now, doing a transaction or going to do a transaction in different areas. Let's take a look this time. Okay, whether it's as equally spread out as before. We have now District 19 and 15 taking the lead, 27, 25%. Let's end this about 5 more seconds. Only 55% have voted. Okay, the rest, maybe you can share with us. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, good. Let me see whether I can share the results with everyone. Can you all see the results? Yes? Okay, so we have here, I think the most, and these were popular, is 19 and 15. It's not unusual. 10, 11 is 26. All right, and then follow that, we have 21, 23 at 15%, 28 See, can you see even among the participants, we have almost correctly. In fact, it's more accurate. It's only 5% are the non-core, right? The rest of the core make up about 95%, even among the respondents. But those who are interested in others, by the way, later we'll be covering some data on them as well. All right. So if there's anything, you can let us know. Okay. All right. So let's move on. Okay. First chart we're going to show is on transaction volume. Okay. Transaction volume. You can see here, there are many numbers here, but if I can just draw your attention firstly to this, okay, at the bottom. Okay. Remember, total Singapore increased by 15%. All right. This is mainly contributed by the core districts because the core districts have grown by 22% and the non-core districts, which are the rest, actually reduced by about 16%. Okay, by 16%. So let's take a look at from here first before we get distracted from the rest. Next, Okay. Next, you can see that even though a majority actually for all the districts, with the exception of maybe District 23 and District 15, which frankly, the drop is not a lot. We're talking about 1 or 2 units, right? The rest have all grown. But the 3 districts that actually grew the most in terms of percentage, you have District 11, which later we will share with you, is contributed a lot by terraces and semi-detached, all right? A very sharp increase. Also partly because of Q2, you can see there was quite a significant drop. 9 units. I believe there's only 1 unit of terrace and 1 unit of semi-detached sold that quarter, all right? So by and large, both types of houses have contributed greatly to this. Then we have District 13, right? District 13 also see the growth in especially semi-detached. Later, Jason will share with you. And in District 16. Now, 16 is a district that is comprised of quite a number of 99-year properties, all right? But similar to District 11, right? For some reason, Q2, it was a much smaller number in terms of transaction versus the rest. So this quarter, it has actually come back to the 20 plus to 30 units. Okay, so later Michael will share with you, especially on the 99-year properties. All right, you see a surge in terms of transactions in this, contributing to the rise of 150%. Okay, so more transactions, okay, next conclusion, in the core districts, 22%, all right, especially the central region. I forgot to mention here, you can see the region, right, we have central, west, east, as well as northeast. Central region actually increased by 70%, right, increased by 70%, which is the fastest growing region compared to the others. Right, next, let's talk about value. Okay, does increase in volume necessarily to increase in value? Not necessarily, but this time around we can see that the mix as the trend is pretty consistent. Right. Again, let's first look at, the bottom first. You can see a total Singapore 6.6%. The core districts is about 4.2, right? 4.2%. So among this 4.2%, most have increased except for slight drop in District 10, 11, -1. District 23, later I'll explain to you, there's a increase in the number of 99-year properties, and also District 20 because of a slowdown of a very strong launch in a couple of months, all right, and other reasons. Since the last quarter, we have, thanks to, or should I say, responding to a lot of feedback from non-core districts, respondents or participants, we have decided to include non-core districts in our analysis. Okay, so you can see here, actually non-core districts, despite a sharper drop in this quantity in transaction volume, the value has actually gone up by 12%. Right, has actually gone up by 12%. But do bear in mind, because this is all based on average, so if they have a small base in terms of transaction volume, it actually tends to skew a lot, right, or quite easily. Right, quite easily. So for instance, you can see now we have 2 transactions or 2 districts posting an average of more than $4,000 per square feet. And that's in District 2 as well as District 9. Okay. How does this come about? Is because of, if you remember for District 2, there are very small shop houses, right? Small shop houses. So one is at Spottiswoode. Basically the size is only about 800 square feet, sold for about $4 million. So that effectively increased the PSF to 4,000 per square feet. And in District 9, you have two transactions or two small ones. One is at Emerald Hill, one is at Saunders Road, basically also downtown as well. All right. One sold for about 8 million, the other was about 11, but the size is relatively small because they are mainly small residential shop houses. Okay. So because of this, these three transactions, it can skew the entire non-core districts up to an unprecedented level of about 1,006. Okay. At 1,006, we are now also closing up to the 1,009 or the national average for both core and total Singapore. All right, so the price gap actually has been reduced. Of course, the interesting thing is, as you can see from, we have deliberately or purposefully put in a trend or over the last 4 years to show you the consistency, all right, in terms of transactions. So you can see, even though there's 4,000 here in a couple of months, sometimes it's zero. That is the same reason why we don't analyze this as closely as the core districts. You don't see the same gap, all right, in terms of transactions. Okay. Now, this is, we also introduced a new, what we call the top 5 list. All right, the top 5 list. It was based on feedback, very well received because it's very easy to understand. And if you were to choose or rank things based on, I think, either volume, value, or their growth, I think this top 5 list will be very interesting for you to see. All right. First is, if you take a look at terraces, okay, at the top. So you have District 19, 15, 28 ranking as the top in terms of volume, right? But interesting thing is volume growth. You'll see 10, just I mentioned, 11 and 10, right? Growing by about 2 times and 5 times respectively, right? And of course, District 9 as well. District 9 is due to very small numbers, but 10 and 11 have always been the steward of the landed market. So this growth will be very highly, I think, watched later and explained by Will. All right. So I mentioned District 2 and 9 earlier, crossing 4,000. Okay, but the rest, highest we have so far is almost 2,749 by District 11 on average, right? Again, based on value growth, will be 6 and District 26, right? And District 26 also. Okay. Next, we will go to that's based on terraces. Okay, based on terrace. Next will be on semi-D. Semi-D wise, you see the biggest growth. Okay, which is from District 27, 19, and 20. For 19 and 20, later Sean will elaborate to you. Okay, it's due to many factors. For 27, it came as a surprise, about 42%. I think the main reason was because in quarter 2, actually, there was only one semi-D, right? And only one freehold one that sold in quarter 2. But in quarter 3, there were 3 freehold. All right, 3 freehold so-called properties sold in a month, okay, versus the previous, in that quarter. So therefore, you see a spike. Again, because the volume is low, therefore it causes a spike, right? Now, next for detached. Okay, detached, remember from previous slides, a lot of districts or island-wide, both volume and value are not growing, all right, are not growing. Therefore, you will see that even in the first time we've seen the top 5 districts, you will see that from, for example, volume growth, only the first 2 districts are growing in terms of detached. The rest have actually dropped, right? In fact, third performing is at minus 18% at District 15. Okay, same for value as well. Only the top 3 districts are growing. The 4th and 5th onwards are all declining in terms of value growth. Okay, if you start to see now unlike maybe in the boom years, you will see actually detached. It's not too long ago, a couple of quarters ago, we actually see detached PSF challenging actually the likes of terrace and semi-Ds. Okay, they were almost hit on and on, but now it's coming back to reality where you see that the bigger property with bigger land sizes will generally have a lower PSF. Okay, the next index that we're going to see, which is quite interesting, is about average price. Okay, average price, do not confuse that with average PSF. All right, average PSF based on URA results or based on what you see on property portals. I think that's easier to understand. But to better understand the entire market, I think it's important for us to also understand how does the average size, all right, or price actually impact. Now, average size, it will be a lot closer now to the concept of median price. But this one, again, we are not taking the median so-called transaction, right? We're actually taking all the transactions and then divide by the price. All right. Again, many numbers here. Let me first draw your attention to total Singapore. Okay, total Singapore. Last quarter, the average price of a landed property okay, or average transaction is at 5.6 million, right? This quarter, pardon me, it has dropped to 5.3 million, all right? That represents almost a 6% drop in terms of the average transaction value, okay? And also in terms of size, last quarter, the average size sold is about 3,000 square feet, 3,200 square feet, all right? This quarter, we see a trending towards smaller units, okay, by about 8%, right? In fact, it's now at 2,900, not crossing 3,000 square feet on average, all right? This taking into consideration all the transactions island-wide, okay? And to split this up further, okay, you can start to see, hold on. Okay, in the core districts, okay, in fact, this is, by the way, reflected in both core and non-core. In core districts, the price is slightly higher, at 5.9 to 5.5, is a 7% drop. And the size is very similar as that. 3,002 now also dropped to 2,009, right? Minus 9% drop. Okay, so what you can see here, which may be, okay, more accurately reflect or more consistent with what we saw in the URA price index, where median price is being used, is that smaller houses, okay, at lower quantums, okay, so first they are smaller and the price transacted were also lower as well, right? And if you understand that the smaller the land size, the higher the PSF, this would make a lot more sense, right? Compared to all the previous figures that we saw earlier. All right. So is this due to basically a tightening of budget by a lot of buyers? Because it's not true that less buyers are buying. In fact, more buyers are buying or entering the market. But maybe due to a lot of uncertainty in the market that we don't see in the last 2 years, people are becoming more cautious, right? Choosing to go for slightly smaller landed houses and also at slightly lower quantum as well. Okay. This, among all the analysis, is probably one of the biggest discoveries we have made, right? The only exceptions are some that you can see here, like District 13, 14, 19 as well. They are basically bucking the trends, all right? You see 13, 14 buying bigger units and also at higher price, right? Same for District 19 and District 17, like I mentioned just now earlier, because of the freehold ones, and District 27 and also 17 as well. All right. Otherwise, the rest of the districts are actually following the global trend. Sorry, this is a total Singapore trend. Okay. Right. Next, another indicator that we have introduced is to look at all types of houses in all places based on the different price range. Now, this is very interesting for more interesting or relevant to buyers who are a bit more indifferent, okay, to locations, right? Because maybe they are buying their first one, they are a bit more mobile, they don't need to be near schools, etc. But they're very concerned about quantum, about price range. All right. So we have here, like, are you a 4 to 5? If your budget is 4 point something million, 5 point something million, etc. All right. So to this, we've grouped them, all the transactions again, all right, across island-wide, and then into these various price brackets. What are some of the discoveries? Okay. First one, you can see the blue one, all right, is that from average PSF, like we have seen, they have all gone up, okay, at all price points until the 20 million mark, right, until the 20 million mark. So if your budget, if it's below 20 million, you should expect to see actually, or you would have witnessed actually a rise in PSF in the last quarter, right? The only exception is above 20 million, okay? Then in the reverse fashion, you will see that the average price and average size, all right, has actually decreased at price points above 10 million, right? Above 10 million. Remember, just a few moments ago, I was just saying that people are tightening the budget, smaller houses are being purchased, all right? People are choosing to also look at a smaller quantum as well, all right? You will see that, you have seen that being reflected in both the average price, whether it's 10 to 12 million, 13, 15, 20, 30, 40, etc. All right. So I think this is, again, another reflection or reminder of what we have seen earlier. Okay. Now, on this note, you notice there is a blank here. Pardon me. Okay. So prices, PSF, for under $20 million have increased, and the average size and price for more than above $10 million houses have decreased. Okay. So what is very stuck here for basically 2 quarters already is that there are no transactions above $50 million. right? No transactions above $50 million. Just 1 year ago, or for the consistent about 24 months, you see GCB records being set. You see GCB news on the news, all right, being reported as well. And of course, recently there's some negative news. I won't elaborate, right? But exactly what has happened for the first time in our webinar, this is the first time you are joining, is that you'll be happy to know we have actually drawn out these numbers for GCBs for the first time. Okay, instead of doing by quarters because the volume is too low, we have actually drawn out for the last 4 years. You could see that the volume, all right, since the peak in 2021, okay, has gone back to the 40. In fact, 43 and 46 are considered very, very high already. All right, this year is really a fallback to, I wouldn't say reality. Is this really the reality, or is this going to continue with the trend, right, where you see an average of only 4 units sold per quarter? It's a sharp drop of about 74% drop in volume. All right. And the value, maybe let's take a look at average value. Average value has not changed too much. It's still hovering about $24 to $28 million. All right. Now it's at 25 million. The price of an average GCB now sold is about 25 million. What is interesting, however, is that the prices sold, okay, the GCBs that are sold are also following basically the island-wide trend of non-GCB landed properties are also getting smaller. Right. In fact, in this 12 units this year, most of the units are actually under, not just under the usual 15,000, they're actually under 10,000 square feet only. All right, thereby reducing the average size by 10%. Right, this year. By the way, this is for all 12 transactions, not just the last quarter. Right. What has increased, however, is that the average PSF has increased, right, by about 5% compared to the previous year. So again, it's a reflection of 2,000. Remember the topic for the day at 2,000 per square feet. It seems as if even the largest landed property type of GCB is not escaping from this. Yeah. Okay. So some continuing with the highlights. Okay, is that the core districts are more popular, plus 19% in volume, especially in the central region, such as District 10 and 11. All right. And then the non-core districts, however, reduced by 13%. So if you're in the core districts and you see more competition from buyers, this is very normal, right? This is very normal. However, the non-core districts, the value actually grew more than the core districts, right? It's 12% versus 4.2%. Again, do not read too much into the non-core districts, that because of the deviation, because of the way the numbers are easily skewed because of 1 or 2 outliers, right? And very importantly, despite the rise in value, the average price and the average size have all reduced. I think reflecting the buyer's preference now, at least in the last quarter, towards lower quantum and smaller houses. Among this, the above $10 million transactions are the most affected, including GCBs. Okay, so I hope this gives you a very good overall view and understanding of how this landed market is done, right, on a very big picture. Now, so let's come back to the question, right? Will $2,000 PSF soon be the norm? Okay, it seems, I think, quite clear that as the population continues to grow, the supply continues to remain stagnant. And we've also condos, HDB. Every day I read HDB prices. I think now there's HDB crossing about 1,003 per square feet for 99 years, right? HDB. I think $2,000 is not a matter of whether it will, it's a matter of when. And in this case, which segment or type will be affected first. To give you a clue, okay, give you some clue, let's recap again. Okay, so among the many segments, terrace have already reached $2,000 per square feet. Okay, $2,000 per square feet. First is terrace. So now it's going to be a norm to see terraces crossing 2,000. Do not be alarmed anymore. All right. The only, of course, difference is there's freehold and 99. I'll be waiting actually for the day where also I'm sure, just like what I said when I record 2 years down ago with the transaction, I think soon you will see also 99-year terrace also reaching new highs. All right. And freehold 999 has already crossed 2,000 already. Right. Also same for new houses. In fact, new houses 2004 is not the highest. Like I mentioned, a lot of 99. At the peak, it was reaching at 2007, 2008. Okay. In fact, a lot of houses now in the market, new ones are asking for more than 3,000. So crossing 2,000 is no longer unusual. Okay. So terrace, freehold 999, and the new ones, new houses in general. The next segment we can look at is basically by districts. Okay, so you have the popular, we call this the big brothers of the landed market, 10, 11. Obviously, they have been hovering, they have crossed the 2000 PSF for the longest time. So even though District 10 now seems like a drop of -1%, later we will share with you that a lot is due to 99 year. In fact, I think the freehold prices is closer to District 11 at 2005. All right, so this is almost water under the bridge. But we also have a new entrant, District 15, since basically 2022, crossing $2,000 per square feet consistently. All right, consistently. We are no longer just talking about terraces, but semi-detached and some detached as well. All right. And then even in the northeast area of District 20 and 28, despite the more affordable price, it also has some smaller houses as well, right? A lot higher proportion of terraces and of course a lot of new houses. This, even though it's not 2000 yet, but we believe this will be the one to cross 2000 next, especially for District 28. In fact, for District 20, we have crossed 2000 before, right, in the last quarter. So to revisit that is totally possible. Okay, 10, 11, 15, and the potential of 2028 in time to come. And in the non-core districts, while we may have District 2 and 9 crossing 2000, but like I said, this is due to outliers, but because of the size, or a relatively small size, and because of the more shop house nature of it, you will see, I think, houses or transactions there crossing 2000 fairly easily. In fact, there are a lot of shop houses in District 15. They are also the ones breaking new highs. $3,500, $4,000 per square feet is not unusual. Okay. Right. Then next, you will see across the different a summary of all the districts. Besides the top 5 that we saw here, District 2, 9, 10, 11, 10 and 15. All right. Let's take a look at the next 7. Right. The next 7. In fact, rank number 6 to 10, okay, comprising of 26, 20, etc. They have also already joined the $2,000 PSF club already, with District 19 and 5 pretty close by, right? District 19 and 5 pretty close. So now we already have 10 districts, right? 10 districts out of the 24, 20. By the way, in Singapore, there are no 28. Even though there are 28 districts, but there are 4 to 5, there's no landed properties, right? No landed properties. So out of about, say, 24 to 25, 10 of them, almost half, have already crossed the $2,000 per square feet, right, for terraces. Okay. For semi-detached, you have 10, 11, 10, 15. And then for detached now is basically safely above 2,000 is 11 and 21. Okay. Again, District 10 is because of some outliers, not as many transactions this month. Later we will share with you. All right. So based on price range-wise, what you can see here is regardless of which price range, whether you are buying 3 to 4 million, 5, 6, 7, whatever, you can see the average for almost all right, are above 2,000. The only exceptions now are below 3 million. Okay, below 3 million, one reason is because most of them are 99. Majority is 99 years, right, property. Okay, so that's at 1470. And 4 to 5 million mark is not at 1,008 yet, but anything above. Now, this is something that's quite unusual because usually the higher the value, we expect a lower PSM. But you can see that this is almost everyone across, even at 12 to 15 million mark, they are actually above 2,000 or close to 2,000 per square feet. So almost every price range is possible. All right, is possible. This is why we started the topic today about addressing this 2000 PSF topic. And frankly, it's a lot closer, a lot more relevant to us than what you may think. All right. Now, with this, I shall now start and go to the next section, which is the highlights in the various regions and districts. Again, I want to introduce my team once again, right, who will be taking turns, I think, to share their insights of the various districts and regions to everyone. Just take note that actually there is a lot more information that we could share, but due to time constraints, all of us will only be presenting, I think, 5 key highlights, right? Only 5 key highlights, which they think is the most important and significant for you to know. All right. So the first to start off will be this Northeast region, to which I will have Sean, all right, to help us to share, starting from District 19. Sean, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Willie. I think very insightful so far for the entire market overview, right? So let's dive straight into the Northeast region. So District 19, I think will be very familiar with for a lot of those who have been consistently attending all our webinars. So the way that we classify all the zoning, likewise for the other districts, is based really about similarities and also based on the volume to make sense of the figures itself. So for District 19, the main three parts will be definitely Serangoon Gardens, the entire Kovan, which also includes Charlton, Arosu area. And of course, for the Greater Bartley area, we also classify them under Paya Lebar, right? So the five main features for highlights for District 19. So District 19 actually performed quite well quarter on quarter. So we see a small rise in terms of the number of transactions. But what's really interesting to note is that there's actually more larger houses being transacted, semi-Ds and detached, in relation to the terraces. So terraces actually we see a drop, right? And in terms of the transaction value across the board from terraces all the way to detached, we see a very healthy growth, not only on the average sale value, but also for the PSF as well. Okay, so some examples of quarter three's highest performers in District 19. So Simon Place, this is a very large quantum. So typically with higher quantums, it would be reflective also in terms of the PSF being transacted. The highest, of course, this would be at Lorong Chuan, this Jardine Residences. Very unique development in the sense that they have not only, this is one very small area within the Serangoon Gardens enclave that actually can go up to 3.5 stories with a basement. So you can see in terms of the built-up area is very, very large, right? So not surprising, cases like this, you have very, very high PSFs. This in the case surpassing 3,000 PSF, right? And back to the value itself, all right? So for Kovan, one interesting thing is despite the overall rise, all right, once we actually dive into the specific zonings, right? Kovan, surprisingly, they have actually fell in terms of the sales value, also the PSF. As we dive deeper into this, right? Is it so that the terraces there have become indeed more affordable? So these are some comparisons from quarter 2 and quarter 3, the performance of the terraces. So despite the average value for the terraces in Kovan falling, you can also see here there are terraces there that really outperform, right? So in quarter 2, with the exception of this very, very big land, most of the terraces fall under about 1,008 to 2,000-ish square foot, right? This Da Silva is very large, 2007. But that being said, all these conditions are either renovated or brand new, all right? And already the average value for these 6 transactions have surpassed 2,300. So one thing to note also for Kovan is that the entire area is actually zoned for, you can build up to 3.5 stories. So most of these houses, the built up is going to be definitely larger than, let's say, its cousins in Serangoon Gardens. So for quarter 3, again, these are not new, but a lot of them, they are already originally 3 stories, right? Renovated and such. Still, the quantum appeals to most, most of them transacting close to 4 or above 4 million. And not surprisingly, the terraces for the PSF for this 3 to be surpassing still the 2,000 PSF mark. Right? And also back to the semi-Ds. So 19 itself, you see the resurgence, right, for semi-Ds and detached. Kovan for this round, in fact, contributes more for the number of semi-Ds being transacted, and it's kind of reflected also in terms of the average sales value and the PSF, right? So you can see in relation to the rest of the other areas, the semi-Ds in Kovan indeed are getting more and more pricier. Let's take a look at a few more examples. So not only that, comparing quarter 2 to quarter 3, not only that the land sizes have increased, all right, in relation to the previous quarter. In fact, we have also a variation of conditions of the houses, right? So for quarter 2, we still have original condition houses, all right? The average size will be 3,000-ish. In quarter 3, all right, not only the brand new one in Surin has transacted, all right, but also you can see some of the older houses, all right, this one that we transacted at Hillside Drive, also fetching the land size definitely is something to be much larger in relation to the previous quarters. And likewise, in line with the webinar tonight, all right, you can see really the significant rise in proportion of the transactions above 1,006. So quarter on quarter, you can see actually it's almost a 2-digit jump from 54% to 71%. And largely the increments actually occur at the 1,007 mark, as well as the more than $2,000 PSF. Right, so that's 19, 5 highlights. 20. Again, District 20, every webinar, I think I also emphasize there's really a fragmentation, all right, between District 20 itself, because the way that the estates are being located throughout, some being nearer to MRTs, popular schools, and nature parks, right? But the prominent ones to really note is Sembawang Hills. And for this round, a lot of attention is on Thomson Garden area. So for District 20, we see a very sharp rise in terms of the number of transactions, but interestingly, most of them come from terraces. So compared to quarter 2, where we saw the terraces not doing so well, the surprising fact for this round is that we see the majority of the increments happening in Thomson Garden area. Some examples, all right? So for Thomson area, actually, this Thomson Garden area, most of the terraces are actually of a smaller land size, all right? And definitely if you're thinking of selling, before you start to jump for joy to think that all terraces in District 20 is going to be definitely more than $2,000 PSF, right? Yes, in fact, you can see that there's a trend moving forward, but still the number of transactions quarter on quarter remains unchanged for those that are more than 2,000 PSF, despite the number of terraces transacted being higher. Right, this will be some examples for Thomson Garden area. Most of them, the land size varies from under 1,000 square feet to a shy of 2,000 square feet of land. And some of them even transacting very high PSF, some even above 3,000. So again, it's really a direct correlation between the quantum, the affordability versus really the PSF. Right, so despite that, having those transacted terraces having such a high PSF, right, you can really see that in this case, the average PSF and the average sale value for terraces in District 20 actually fell. Right, so we are just hovering above the 2,000 PSF range, despite so many transactions occurring in Thomson Garden, being a very small land with very high PSFs. Okay, and semi-detached, we see really a gain in terms of the average PSF. Quantum remains kind of unchanged, right? We'll move to see a few more examples shortly. Okay, so I wanted to highlight another very interesting feature. Of late, I've noticed many transactions for the same unit itself occurring 3 years apart, right? So this is one of a few examples in my Northeast slides. So this one transacted Casuarina Road, right? Transacted in 2020. Back then, this was already a record high, surpassing $2,000 PSF, a brand new unit, all right? So just after 3 years, the SSD period, you can see that this house actually transacted at $1 million more, all right? So with all this transactional data, actually points to one very stark realization that a lot of buyers are still looking for move-in conditions. All right, so things that are built just under 5 years, almost new, well-maintained, these are still in demand, given that the current structure of the construction industry, the prices are not yet coming down. Right, and for more verification on the semi-detached, so we have 3 different areas, right? 3 similar kind of original or renovated semi-Ds. So Thomson Heights, all right, is a 2-story mixed landed zone. All right, Ellington Square is a 3-story mixed landed zone. Thomson Ridge, 2-story mixed landed zone. You can already start to see the stark differences, all right? So latent land value per se, like example, Ellington Square being very close to good schools and MRT itself, the latent land value, the potential to actually go up to 3 stories, 3.5 stories, definitely has shined in this quarter itself in terms of the transaction. Whereas the more popular areas like Thomson Ridge, even a single story semi-D in original condition is already getting very, very close to $2,000 per square foot, right? Again, signifying the large fragmentation within the district itself. Okay, and jumping to District 28. So moving forward, every quarter is really a challenge to really analyze District 28, right? You can see actually from the past transactional quarters, you can see a spike from 1005 straight away, District 28 jumped to 1009, right? So District 28, in a way, how we classify them is also the greater areas of Begonia, Seletar Hills, Luxus Hills itself, Gerard Mutlingston, and then Cactus Sunrise. So this will be on face value. All right, you can see technically there is no change in volume, right? But we do see a huge surge in terms of the number of terraces transacted. But we see again the drop in terms of the semi-Ds and detached. So for the first time, I am stripping away all the pollen collection transaction. All right, so 29, stripping away. We actually have a true value for resale only for District 28, being 19 in Q2 and 14 in Q3, right? So definitely you can see in Q3 itself, there are 15 terraces at pollen collection being transacted. So after looking at this, it's a district that actually kind of masks its true colors from the rest. And we actually see it's quite a big decline. I'm more inclined to believe that pollen collection is definitely something that owners, potential buyers will be looking out for, right? So, but that being said, the terraces also have seen a rise in terms of transactions from 9 to 11, right? And in terms of the transactional value for stripping away pollen collection, of course, again, we see the similarities, right? Most of the transactional PSFs, we are still climbing marginally. So for District 28, due to the lower number of transactions, is this kind of like a plateau whereby there's resistance above 1008 PSF for most resale. Let's take a deeper look. All right. So for terraces, semi-detached itself, we can see actually there's a marginal increment in terms of terraces. So despite the influx from pollen collection, bring it almost close to 2000 PSF. In fact, even for resale itself, we still see a steady climb. So for the first time ever, those resale itself is very close, just a nick away from 2000. Again, back to the similarities in District 20, this will be another example whereby it's just only 2 years apart. Something that is move-in condition, this is at Jalan Sindor, transacted just 2 years apart. And the realized gains is actually more than 1.3 million. Right, this would be the semi-D. Another example, again, this would be 5 years apart. So original was on the right. The new owners actually renovated, upgraded the space and managed to transact again for more than 1 million gains. Again, this one, move-in condition, not surprising, this is actually surpassing 2000 PSF. And another example. So again, back to what we have noticed on the field is that increasingly there's a lot of considerations whereby do you want to actually buy a land and either reconstruct or rebuild, or would you be more inclined to look for something that is more moving condition or fully maximized? I think the real question to ask is definitely also the loan versus the cash portion, right? Because definitely based on the transacted value, this entire transaction can be loaned, whereas the construction costs, rebuilding costs, you have to get pretty creative in terms of funding wise. Right, so with that, I'm going to pass over to Jason to cover 13 and 14.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, so I'll be covering D13 and 14. So, okay, let's kickstart for D13. So, okay, basically a quick update. gone through. The 13 mainly from Brother High, McPherson and CNET. These are the three areas. Main transaction come from CNET and McPherson and Brother High. Yeah. Okay. One of the highlights, main highlight, as you can see, over here, for the past, the transaction have surged from Q2 to Q3. From 12 to 17 is almost 42%. But however, in terms of the what you call comparison, as what Willie have highlighted, last year for Q3 is still on the not having reaching the level of 26 in Q3. Yeah. So in comparison, overall for this year, Q1 to Q3, there's a surge. The transaction is coming back. Yep. And what you can see, most of the transactions come from, the majority come from semi-D. Okay, so the next highlights, you can see the surge in transaction, mainly from where? From McPherson Estates. As you can see below, the transaction here, Q1, Q2, it was very slow, and then suddenly there's a very surge, high demand for McPherson Estate, especially on the semi-D side. Yeah. So this is some of the transaction, as you can see, from terrace and the semi-D. All these are mainly from McPherson Estate. So moving forward, as what Willie have highlighted, this quarter, generally the transaction all are moving in the range of more than 2,000 PSF. As you can see, right now the terraces, not only the PSF go up, the volume, the value also go out in general. So like McPherson Garden and CNET, these have actually priced about 16 and 13, almost 40%. Next, the value for terraces for this D13, we see a surge in the value as well for terraces from the previous quarter of 3.1, and it's almost 13% higher as compared to Q2. So it's now hovering around 3.5 million onwards. Yeah, I'll show you some examples. As you can see, some of them are easily 3.8 all the way until 4.5, and this is not anything what you call new or whatever, and this is more like some of them even original. And generally, this is a price moving forward for terraces. Lastly, for District 13 highlights, again, what we are seeing, as you can see here, almost more than 60% pricing for transacted PSF is easily more than 2,000 PSF. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Now we move on to District 14. Generally, District 14, as you can see, only cover these three areas. The main transaction come from Kembangan area. Yeah. Okay. So there's a so-called, currently the transaction for D14, as you can see from the below chart, is quite stable right now from the what you call since Q2 last year. So okay, sorry, since Q3, pardon me, since Q3 until today, except for there's what you call Q1. Sorry, I think the number was over here was something wrong. Q1, it was actually a slight drop, and subsequently it all goes up to maintain at about 17. It's the same as last year Q3. One of the main surge in transaction, okay, actually from semi-D, as you can see from below, the last quarter, the last quarter from Q3, you can see Q3 last year versus this year, there's a upsurge of 133%. So as you can compare, the previous quarter is all the way down, and only this quarter, I think there's a surge in semi-D. Normally, I think the new, I will say that this area, couple of new one coming out on sale. So see the attach here. As you can see, this is one of the new one. Okay, this is one of the new one. Yeah, and the other one new one is actually just sold. Yeah, from the corner terrace. Again, we are seeing terrace for District 14. Price going up, you see, almost 15% from Q2, 2008 to 2001. So likewise, the price as well. There's a rustic increase of 22% from 3 to 4.6. So these are just some of the examples of the 2001 transaction for terraces. On the fourth highlight, we are seeing generally almost 71% of the transaction hovering from 1007 PSF onwards right now. As compared previously, is more on still 1004. We are still seeing 1004, 1005. With this quarter, general transaction is already moving up 1007 onwards, and we are seeing more unit closing at more than 2000 PSF. Lastly, for District 14, I think what you can see on this highlight, generally the price is still hovering between 3.3 mil all the way until 6 mil. So this take majority percentage, almost 60%. So which means that right now, I think generally for District 14, average price range for, I would say between terrace and semi-D is hovering between this kind of pricing up to 6 mil. Almost 70%. Yep. Okay, thanks. So I'll pass on to District 15, Justin.
Hi, thank you, Jason. I'm Justin. I'll be covering District 15. And as you can see from the graph, we actually segmented the District 15 into 4 zones. Katong on the left, Chucha, Teluk Kurau, and Siglap. Siglap comprises of Franco. Now, let's look at the first highlight tonight for District 15. We are comparing the transacted value versus the transacted PSF. What you can see, something interestingly, is you see the value actually dropped by 27%, but opposed to the increase in PSF, which is by 9.5% to 2,236 PSF. But this is something that is something interesting. But when we dive into the numbers, we want to understand why there's a drop in value, but there's increase in PSF. But to have a fairer of comparison, I actually give you another chart at the bottom, as you can see. I actually drawn out the 2022 full year versus 2023 year to date up to September. What you can see here is the value actually in fact increased by 7.8%, and which is in line with the increase in PSF as well to about 7%. Now, I brought you to the second highlight, transacted the terrace house reducing in price. Now, what happens is I see there's actually a price reductions like compared to Q1 and Q2. There's a drop from 5.2% all the way to 12.2% versus Q2 of 2023. Why is that so? So actually in line with what Willie has mentioned earlier on, there was actually like people buying now are more cautious because in the high interest cost environment, so they are looking out for some value buy houses. So in District 15, apparently there are not many. They are within the below the 4 million marks. But I see more transacted houses for terrace houses that are below 4 million. Now let's take a look at this chart. What you can see is actually for the Q1, Q2, and Q3, you can see the average land size actually dropped from 2125, 2389 versus a 1949 in Q3 2023. But the fact that the PSF actually increases is a 5.7% increase versus Q1 and a 6.7% versus Q2. So in conclusion, for a terrace house in District 15, easily in average is actually at about 2003 PSF now for terrace houses. Now, but before that, there are also questions coming from the ground that terrace houses actually comprises of inter-terrace and corner terraces, right? So there are also buyers are looking out for corner terraces. The fact that actually you have more value in terms of the land. So I just handpick some of the houses that we are marketing now that you can actually take a look at the price. If you prefer something that is more resort style, more landscape, then you can go for something that on the left hand side. And on the right is another houses corner terrace that which is more modern built and is fully built with 5+1 bedrooms, renovated with a 5,005 of built-up spaces. But of course, if you would like to know more about info about these houses, you can actually go to the agents that invited you to this seminar tonight. The next highlight I would like to brought about for District 15 is we are seeing more and more houses, not just surpasses 2,000 PSF, but in fact, it's actually 2,004. Let's take a look at Q3. They are already 31% out of the total 35 units volume. It's more than 2,004 PSF, which is accounted for 11 units, which is quite a lot. As compared to Q2, it's only 5 units. This is what we are seeing the trend now, that higher houses actually are transacted about 2004. Now let's take a look what are the houses that actually sold that's more than 2004. I just pick a few just for comparison purposes. Now the first one that you're seeing, 144 Lansat Road. I think those that are actually active in District 15 will have known that this house is actually a mortgagee sales. But even though it's a mortgagee sales, but they also sold at 2004, 90 PSF. Not to mention the second one is a conservation terrace, conservation shop houses. For district, I will touch later on the shop houses in District 15. Now the third one, 22 Metropole Drive, like what Sean had shared earlier on, there are some houses in District 15, it's the same thing. It was within the 3 years that they sold at above 1 million profit. You know, was sold at 3.45, if I remember correctly, 3 years ago. Now actually sold at 4.9 again. Now, this also being said, people buying now are actually more going for something ready renovated houses. They are more willing to pay. Tadina Norma Terrace, smaller than size, 1,004, but transacted at 5.1 million, which is 3,725 PSF, which is really, really high. Then next will be 85 Ida Streets, also more than 2,004 PSF. Now, my fourth highlight tonight is actually talk about semi-D. Now, semi-D houses, we thought that, you know, the PSF actually dropped 13.2%, which is quite significant from 2001 to 1,892, even though the average PSF is about 7.8 billions. But because of the shortage of number of transactions that skew the number. So as you can see the chart below, there are only 2 transactions. I mean, in total it's about 5. Only 2 transactions in Katong that actually bring the PSF down. Now, let me dive in into a little bit more to tell you why. This is one of the houses, Pool Road, 17A, was sold at only 1,782. Those who miss it, because this is a very, very good PSF to go in. Now, let's take, for example, if I were to, because this 1,782, you hardly can find in Katong area. But if I would take this out, this is an outlier, the PSF actually will goes up to 2120 PSF. But if you were to ask me whether do we have any other semi-D for sale in Katong area, of course we do have. And let me handpick a few also to show you, like these 3. We have all sort of like, depending on your choice, we have different land size, we have different build up, different number of bedrooms, condition of the house, and also not to mention there are also the locations. So these are the few that if you are interested in, you also can contact the agent who invited you tonight to get to know more about, get more information from them. And this is not the only semi-D that we are selling. We are selling a few more at other SICAP area as well. Now, the last highlights that I'm going to brought about tonight is about residential shop house. Now, this is something that we don't talk about a lot actually in the previous seminar, but I just want to bring this in tonight because Chucha area, we have a lot of residential shop houses, but the prices, we categorize them under the terrace, under Chucha area. As you can always see that the PSF for Chucha area, terraces is always the highest. It's because of the shop houses that actually transacted. Hence, it actually pulled the whole PSF up. So it's 4.3%. Let's take a look at what are the price points that they sold. These are the 3 shop houses that were sold within the span of about 9 months, or even more than that. Just want to show you to give us some idea of what the PSF we are looking at. Like the one at 253 Tambourine, they actually transacted at 4,174, is transacted November 2021. And 74 Cartmel Road is an inter shophouses residential, already 3,008. Then this year, we have another one, 86 Juchat Terrace, which already topped the chart. We transacted at 4,003. So these are the PSF they're looking at. In the past, before COVID, probably about less than 3,000. Then after COVID, immediately above 3, then now it's actually 4 million. So if you have like corner shophouses, or you are looking for corner shophouses, conservation shophouses, this could be the PSF they are looking at. Okay, that's all for me for tonight. For District 15, I'm going to pass on to Michael for District 16. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Good evening, I'm Michael. I will cover District 16. Before the 5 highlight, let's look at where District 16 is. 5 sub-area. From the bottom left, we have the Standard Lucky Height area. Now, this area transaction comparatively are always higher in terms of value and PSF. On the right is the Q Drive Jalan Limau area. Now, for this area, traditionally, it commands a higher market share. More units are transacted here than the rest of the other 4 areas. On the right is the Youthwood Bidok area. And the 4th area is Tanah Merah Kecil Peakview, which is north of this Upper Changi Road. And then the last area is Wan Chun Harvey Avenue area, including Sunbird. What are the 5 highlights I have? Firstly, there is actually a big increase in transaction volume. As you can see here, 26 numbers in Q3. And the distribution of this is, you have Terrace House 14 and semi-D 12. Of these 26 transactions, by the way, 8 are leasehold transactions. Where are these transactions taking place? As you can see from the slide here, it's quite well distributed. Standard area 5, Q Drive 8, 3, Bidok rear, and then 5 East, Tanah Merah, and Harvey Avenue area. You can see down here there is this so-called consistency. Last year alone, Q1, we are looking at is the Q Drive Jalan Limau area, which command 39% weightage. Q2 is 40 and Q3 is 21. With the last quarter 36. Even in this year, this Q1, we are looking at is 26%. And this consistently brings the transaction volume in this area up. The second highlight is that we see an increase in PSF transaction above the 1,007 and even going beyond the 2,000 PSF. If you look at the figure down here, there are only 2 above in Q2 versus 8 in Q3. What are these transactions that is more than the 2,000 PSF? As you can see from here, there are actually 5, and they are all terraces. Look at the land area. They are not big, below the 2,000 square feet, but the transaction value has gone up, right? Take, for example, 17 Prime Road. It's 5.1 million, which is actually a price of semi-D, but this is a terrace house. And based on record, the highest PSF also come from this particular unit. So you can see 5 going through the beyond the 2,000 PSF is already happening in this quarter. Next highlight is that we also saw a rise in terrace PSF. It has gone up. If you look at the segment down here, it has reached on an average above the 4 million mark. This has not happened before. And so is the PSF reaching the 2,000 PSF mark. And if you look at the table at the bottom, The price, as I see from quarter 1 to quarter 3, is 4 million, and the PSF highest on record now is 1986, attributed to just now the slide you saw, where all the terrace houses are beyond the 2000 mark. Now, where are all the transactions that take place? In this case down here, you can see easily above the 4 million mark. And I mentioned earlier that Tenet Lucky High is one where you have high value transaction as well as high value PSF, which you can see above, well above the 2000 mark, right? And on an average now is above 4 million. Next is transaction above 4 million mark. You can see down here, last quarter 2, there are only 3 versus this quarter 11, quarter 3. And this actually attribute to this increase in value. And the last highlight I want to show you is that there's actually a widening of gap between the leasehold and freehold property. Right? You see the margin now is as close as 2 million, right, between the freehold and 99. So is the PSF. It's gone up to 2006 and 2002. If you want to have a so-called a better understanding on the price, what's the gap between freehold and a leasehold property? Look at this transaction here. For a 99-year terrace house, 2 million. But if we buy a terrace house, freehold, you're going to pay another $1.5 million more. So it's not only happening in terrace, but it's also happening in the semi-D. For this slide, semi-D, now minimum we are talking about is 3 million, right? Terrace is 2 million. But conversely, if you buy a freehold property, it's 4.35 mil. This is the lowest. The next price is actually 4.5. So this will give you an idea that for those of you who are still considering whether to buy a property now, before the next quarter is up, the price actually are moving up. So you may want to review your plan and consider buying it before the next quarter result. With that, I will pass over to Will for District 10. Will?
Thank you, Michael. Hi, I'm Will here. Would dive into details for D10, D11, as well as 21 and 23 today. Yeah. So, here are some of the 5 highlights for D10 by itself. Okay, sorry. Okay, let's dive into D10 right now. As you can see, there's an increase in transaction for leasehold property. Okay, and mainly it's happening in Bukit Timah itself, with 8 units that being transacted very recently. Okay. So before that, let's have a look. So part of it, let's dive into the Bukit Timah area. So the popular unit that's being transacted within D10. So this is what we find, or what I see right now, based on the recent transaction at the King's Drive area. So total 3 units has been transacted, while the remaining rest is happening in somewhere in this Jalan Lim Tai Si, as well as some in this Victoria Park Villa. But again, these 3 particular unit happens with probably near to school due to the proximity to school, yeah, and a proximity to MRT, as well as value buy. If let's say you're also going for investment, if you're going to see today average value for these 3 semi-Ds is hovering between the 4 over million mark, with a rental return of about more than 3%. Yeah. So next, increase in right now, increase in transaction in both terrace and detached houses over at this quarter. As you can see, total of 31 units sold, of which of 27 houses is transacted within terrace houses and the semi-D itself. Next, increase in transactions for semi-D in terrace. Okay, you see average price, there's a downward pressure, okay, for the semi-D house type, especially for semi-D house type. Yeah. As you can see, right now, semi-D has a minus 1.8% and a PSF of minus 0.2%. So how true is it? Okay. So with this being said, okay, price drop. Okay, with the price drop and PSF drop, this is also part due to the leasehold semi-D within this area. As I mentioned, there's about 7 units of semi-D that's being sold in D10 that bring the whole price and PSF down. But if I'm going to remove it, okay, I'm going to remove all the leasehold property. This will be the actual value that we will be seeing. In Q2, we are looking at, after removing the leasehold property, you are looking at $2,315 in terms of PSF. And Q3, you are looking at 2,507 in terms of PSF. So it's an increase of 8%. Next, I would like to highlight to you this in terms of average price being transacted this quarter. For the previous quarter of Q2, you will see about the number happening between the 7 million to somewhere touching 15 million mark. But this time round, you will see more houses within the 8 million mark, and of course, still hovering between the less than 15 million mark, where a lot of buyers are acting on cautious on their purchase. And of course, well, there's a widespread of PSF in quarter two. Okay, in quarter two, you will see the PSF hovering between the $2,000 to somewhere about close to 2,700. But this time round for Q3, there's a widespread from about 1,800-ish to all the way to more than $3,000 in terms of PSF. And mainly of it are happening about more than 50% of the unit, okay, is crossing the 2,000. And of course, what caused all these lower transaction are the smaller house type for the inter-terrace and some of the leasehold property in the area. So next, we're going to dive into D11. So D11, we actually segregate this area into three different sectors: the Swiss Club, Daniel, as well as the Novena, and other small little pockets at this Jones Road, Andrews Road. So you can see this time around, we have also more detached housing that's being transacted within this D11. Okay, we have 25 units that's being sold this quarter, of which 20 units come from terrace and semi-D. Okay, and bulk of it happened within Daniel itself. Next, going forward, usually you will see smaller house type having the highest PSF. But in terms of this quarter, Q3, you realize that the terrace houses only perform about $2,749 in PSF, while semi-D has transacted a new height of 2,791, and of course for detached houses has crossed that 3,597 mark. Okay, so what actually causes this phenomena is mainly because there are more newer house type or new semi-D as well as new terrace house that's being transacted within this area. Okay, of which 7 units of brand new semi-D that's transacted within the range of 3,000-ish to 3,004, and 2 detached houses that transact at a 3,488 PSF and as high as 3,700 niche in terms of PSF. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, bulk of it dive into this area of Novena. So just to show you a couple of houses. So Novena area, okay, is the first time crossing the 3,000 mark. Mainly is due to the freehold unit. So I'm going to highlight 5 of them. 3 of them in this slide and the 2 of them at the other at this slide over here. So again, Novena area, due to the brand new houses, pushes the average PSF crossing the $3,000 mark. So in my number 4 slide, you will see average price for D11 hover between the 10 million to more than 20 million for Q2. But for Q3 itself, again, there's a spread. So just wondering if price really softened. Yeah, but this is also caused by terrace house. As I mentioned earlier, there's more terrace house. There's 6 units of terrace house being sold. Yeah, so this is also caused by terrace house type. That's why you will start to see prices starting from 6 mil all the way to 20 million mark. So as mentioned, and right now we are going for the average price. In Q2, more houses are hovering between the 2001 to about 2007. But this time round in Q3, due to the brand new houses that's being transacted, it pushed the average PSF crossing the $3,000. So to a lot of other districts, they are still hovering between the 2,000 mark, while D11 has already crossed $3,000. Next, I'm going to dive into District 21. So District 21 is also being separated into a few different areas. The Jurong Kechil, which is one of the popular locations. Next will be the Toi and Danian, for those who are looking for a prestige location close to Bukit Timah, as well as detached houses in Sunset area, and a small little pocket here, which is the terrace and semi-detached type, okay, just across Clementi Green. We also classify them under Sunset. So for house hunter who is looking for affordability, yeah, you might want to look into this area, especially the Toi area, okay. Danian side, we have some of the recently there's a couple of good buy with a bigger plot of land being transacted, yeah, at a pretty low PSF, as well as semi-D that's being sold at about 7.5 million for start with. Okay, now we're going to dive into the highest number of houses sold in Toi, okay, of 7 units. So for Toi, as mentioned, the price gap, you will see the gap between semi-D and terrace narrow down. Why did I say so? So for terrace houses, it transacted on the average of 4.94 million niche thereabout, and while the Toi semi-D was at 5.8. Okay, now I'm going to remove some of the houses, then you will see in a better pictures. Okay, for this house number 1, which is a leasehold property at Ingkong Place, okay, I'm going to remove it. Same goes to this Toi Drive, a bigger plot of land that can be easily converted into a detached. In fact, the neighbor has already detached away from the existing house. So after removing all this, okay, by the way, the 4 semi-D, the 4 terrace house type that is being transacted are mainly corner terrace. Yeah, so as you can see, Totak Place, the only semi-D has transacted at 4.95 with a PSF of 1705, while the average of the 4 unit, okay, is at 4.9, 4 unit of corner terrace at 4.94 million, transacted at an average price of 1714, which is higher than the semi-D at being transacted at Totak Place. Next, this will be the first time where the Sunset crossing the $2,000 mark, where there's only 2 units, okay, 2 units at Sunset View that's being sold. Yeah, and price for these 2 units was on the average about 2001, just for your info. Next will be the transaction price within certain price range. And Q3 this quarter, you will see that prices are ranging from 3,000 to somewhere about close to 5. Okay, this is mainly caused by houses in I would say the corner terrace. And the other price that you should look at is bigger house type that's been transacted between 8 to not more than 15 million. Okay, and while last quarter you will see the range is ranging from 2 million all the way to not more than 15 million. Yeah. Okay, so for more houses that's being transacted this quarter 2023 Q3, more houses are happening between the 1,700 to 1,800 niche range, or more than 1,800 niche range, where last quarter 5 units. Yeah, I would say compare apple to apple. This time round you will start to see some price in terms of PSF that's a bit of softened compared to last quarter. So next will be the District 23. Okay, District 23, again, we also separate into a couple of locations: the Choa Chu Kang area, the Chestnut, the Burgundy, Verdale area, which are mainly the leasehold, Hillview areas, and others, which is the real mall. So for this quarter Q3, you will see bulk of the transaction happening between the terrace house type and mainly leasehold property to start off with. Okay, you will see okay, so prices you will see is there's no prices occurring between this 5 million to 20 million mark for this quarter in Q3, but bulk of it is happening between the 2 million to 5 million mark. Okay, so for the 2 million mark wise, 2 to 3 million mark wise, are mainly the leasehold, as mentioned earlier. So now you can see the Burgundy area. You see the price. Average price has dropped by for all house type, yeah, for the terrace all house type. Okay, though it's a positive, okay, for all these 4 different sectors, but in terms of average, still dropped by about there's a drop of close to 10%. Okay, so why is it so? Okay, why is it so? So you can see this whole property being transacted. Yeah. So 3 of it are transacted below 3 million. Then for Q2 and for Q3, 5 houses is being transacted below 3, and of which makes up a percentage of more than 50% for this, about 50%. In fact, it's 50% for Q3. Okay, wow. Okay, let's dive into the pricing. For Burgundy and Verdale area, okay, 6.3% growth, but PSM dropped quite a fair bit, close to touching about 6%. And part of it, here are some of houses that's being sold in Q2 at 1,362 PSF, and of course 2 corner terrace that is being sold at 1,127. So more corner terrace are being sold, transacted at lower PSF. That's why that pushes the average PSF on the downward. And of course, there's only 3 houses that's transacted more than this 2,000 PSF, and the and the average is about 21 to 22 based on quarter 2 and quarter 3. And of course, it's one of the highest. Yep. So next, these are the houses that's being transacted, crossing the $2,000 mark or joining the $2,000 club. So mainly are happening between the Pavilion Circle and most of the one of the most popular location, okay, which is the Cashew and Cashew area. And of course, for this Pavilion Circle, this unit is a 3.5 story, a fully maximized built up terrace house type. And for Cashew is actually a 3-story versus this 2-story. This in fact 86 Cashew is actually a 2-story, 2.5 story terrace house. Okay, sorry on some of the technical issues. Okay, next.
Thank you, Will. Thank you, the entire team. Can you see me? All right. So I hope you all have had a very good overview, if not a very in-depth analysis. If you need more information, please feel free to, of course, contact the Huttons agent or HLD consultant who have invited you. If not, feel free to contact any of our teammates here, right? My leaders, who, frankly, trust me, they have a lot more in their mind than what they can share in the 5 minutes per district that was allocated to them, right? Okay, so what's the conclusion? We're reaching towards the end. Meanwhile, I also urge some the participants here, if you have any questions, feel free. Just now we're all busy trying to answer questions in the Q&A and the chat, right? In case there are others that are not. So what are some of the outlook or conclusions that we have? First thing is, we believe that the landed prices should continue to, the keyword here is moderate, right? I've heard a lot from the media reports saying that it should soften, but I think a better word to say is moderate, meaning that there should still be price increase, if any, across different types, but it will be at a lower pace, all right? It will not be able to grow as fast as the past due to, I think, it's a really well-known effects of the very challenging macro environment, all right? And we talk about $2,000 per square feet or higher transactions will become more and more common. We have seen many, many examples in many different segments, subtypes, in many districts, especially for the smaller houses and the renovated and the new houses as well. So if you get to see this number again, either at the asking price or even to your valuation, that should be something for you to look on. All right, but do bear in mind this will differ across different districts. Okay, so despite this, okay, we do not think that prices will crash. Okay, prices will not crash because of very, very fixed supply. We have also just seen this population report that I think population is growing at a very healthy pace in Singapore. And frankly speaking, if every year we have a 6-digit increase in terms of population from PRs to Singapore, all we need is 5% from them, all right? Either directly or indirectly contributing to the demand from landed. And with that, I think prices will always be on the upward trend in the mid, especially in the mid to long term. Okay, for those buyers who think, or sorry, in this case, sellers, right, who thinks that the seller market that a lot of owners were fortunate to experience in the last 2 to 3 years during the pandemic, we have to politely tell you that this is over. In fact, it was over since about 3 months or 6 months ago, where we see that now it's not as if it's a buyer's market now, but the days of when a unit enters the market, it is snap up because there's a shortage versus the demand. I think this is now really, it's not something that we are seeing in the market now. Now it's a lot more healthier. It's a lot more balanced between the buyers and sellers. Buyers have more options to choose from. Sellers, of course, at the same time have a more time to, I think, moderate, I think, their marketing and sales strategy. All right. So houses still have to be priced right. If not, you will risk being left over in the current evolving market. A very constant and very regular advice from us is that sellers and buyers should continue to make your next move based on your personal and family needs. I think buying a landed property, unlike other asset classes, is more as a home than a speculative, like a financial product, right? Last but not least, I think variation in performance across the various locations, house types, and of course, non-house qualities, which we don't even have opportunity to highlight here, right? But if you speak to any of my teammates at HLD or my leaders, we'll be able to tell you that there are other factors that the numbers can't even describe, right? Or even sufficiently basically articulate in a webinar like this to tell you that I think this will affect the prices, okay? Or in terms of the quantity as well. So the key thing, I think, to really understand the market is to basically, especially the micro factors, I think is very important. So continue to, I think, ask around, talk to your agents, all right, especially those who are focusing on the landed market, read up, monitor the prices so that you understand all these factors better before you make a decision, right?